A 1-week search for a missing boy has ended with the worst possible outcome.
Approximately 3 p.m., the remains of Jayden Spicer were discovered buried at the scene.
Jayden Spicer's mom is now in custody in connection to her son's death. But at the time of this recording, she's not charged with murder. We have the court document that shows what she told police, which may explain why. Now, this is the same woman who also allegedly wrote this note to a TV station when her son was considered missing, pleading for him to be found. How her lies allegedly unraveled in a case that is breaking the hearts of so many people in Appalachia and across the country. We're on the case, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. The case involving a young boy named Jayden Spicer, just 10 years old, has taken a dark turn from being a missing persons investigation to now an open and ongoing criminal case. I want to start first with this picture of Jayden, and it just gives you an idea of what this boy was like. Just 10 years old, had a big smile on his face. You can see him there in his Spider-Man t-shirt. His entire life ahead of him. His childhood still ahead of him. His picture was spread across Kentucky over the last 7 days. It was just a week ago exactly that he went missing. His mom and stepdad first told police that he was last spotted August 5th, Tuesday night around 9. Then the next morning, he was gone. They said Wednesday, August 6th, they woke up and he was missing. Police say he was first reported missing around 9:30 that morning, August 6th. Jayden lived with his mom and stepdad in a home along this rural road in Jackson, Kentucky. This is a small town. We're talking roughly 2,200 people, about an hour and a half from Lexington, Kentucky. Now, Jayden may have lived in a small town, but again, when this story first broke, it spread. It was spreading across the internet, across the state of Kentucky, across the country, and law enforcement, they did not hold back in trying to find him. They used aircraft, drones, dogs, sonar, all of it in hopes they could find Jayden. I also want to show you this note because this is very important. This is a handwritten note allegedly by Jayden's mom, Felicia Gross, which was acquired by WKYT-TV, which is a Kentucky television station. I'm going to read it for you. So that note read, quote, "We love Jayden and want him safe at home. Please, if anybody sees my son, Jayden Spicer, please report it to the Jackson Police Department. Thank you. We love him very much. Please do the right thing. Call the police. Please pray for us and my son, Jayden. Thank you." I want you to remember every single word of what that woman allegedly wrote in that handwritten note, especially the line that says, "Please do the right thing. Call the police." In the last couple of days, as this search was going on, it does appear that the questions started to mount for Felicia Gross, as well as her husband, the stepdad of Jayden Spicer. And I'll be clear, he is not charged at the time of this recording in this case. But I want you to watch this video by 2 YouTubers who actually went to their home and they yelled out to the couple, and Jayden's stepdad responded. Watch.
This is Fred and Sheila McCoy. We just come out looking around, see if we could find Jayden anywhere. I appreciate that. I was wondering what your reaction would be. Of course, you wouldn't think you would be mad over it, and I appreciate that.
That couple runs the Hatfield McCoy Museum Adventures YouTube page. Their names? Fred and Sheila McCoy, and they have investigated some pretty high-profile cases in Kentucky. They say they also found, after yelling out to Jayden's stepdad, a bag of clothes near the house that Jayden's stepdad later confirmed to them was the boy's clothing. Now, in the video, Jayden's stepdad is also heard saying that he has cooperated with the investigation fully, and he has said that Jayden started living there only a short time ago. There's still a lot of questions about what the living situation was for Jayden, some of the family dynamics at play here. In the video, you also hear the McCoys saying that they believe that they see Felicia Gross outside the home, the mom. And there's also, we can see from that video, there was a child there as well. We know that other children lived in the house, at least 2 of them, along with Jayden. Now, then Tuesday afternoon, this story yesterday took that turn that none of us wanted. Police say they received new information that led them to this location. We found it on Google Maps, a wooded area where police say they found Jayden's body. They say that 10-year-old was in a shallow grave. And then the part of this story that becomes a criminal investigation. Felicia Gross, Jayden's mom, was put under arrest. She is currently in a county jail. She is expected to be arraigned on charges tomorrow morning, but at this point, she's not going to be arraigned, at least at the time of this recording, on a murder charge, and here's why. Kentucky State Police said this about the charges she's now facing. Listen.
Jayden's mother, Felicia Gross, 33, of Jackson, was taken into custody and transported to Kentucky River Regional Jail. She is charged with manslaughter in the second degree, abuse of a corpse, tampering with physical evidence, and falsely reporting an incident.
We received the criminal citation that details how police were able to find Jayden's body and what his mom, who's now facing charges, allegedly told police in an interrogation. Police say they brought Gross in for an interview just yesterday. They read her Miranda rights, and then after that, she told detectives that she had given Jayden a sleep medication of some kind, and she claims he had a medical emergency and he died from that medical emergency. She then said she took her own son's body to the location where he was later found in a shallow grave. His body was found, according to police, in a plastic tote. Not only that, Jayden's mom allegedly confessed to police that she, quote, coached Jayden's siblings about what they should say when they were interviewed by specialists over the last week. It's unclear specifically what they told police, but again, she coached them on what to say. All of this as she was giving off the perception that her son was missing. Police now say this is an ongoing criminal investigation. Jayden's stepdad, who we are not naming in this story because at the time of this recording, he has not been charged, and we want to be clear that Felicia Gross is the only person who has been arrested in this case at this point, but Kentucky State Police really reiterated in this news conference that this is an ongoing investigation and a lot could change. Before we get back to this very sad case out of Kentucky, I do need to take a break and take a moment to talk about our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. We're talking about America's largest injury law firm. They have more than 1,000 attorneys and they win a lot. They've recovered more than $25 billion from more than 500,000 clients. In just the past few months, a client in Florida received $12 million after the insurance company offered just $350,000. In Pennsylvania, a client was awarded $26 million. That is 40 times the insurer's $650,000 offer. Another client in Pennsylvania received $29 million after being offered only $500,000. Even if you don't think your case is worth millions of dollars, why not fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan makes it so easy to start a claim. You can do it with just 8 easy clicks on your phone. So if you've been hurt and you need to start a claim, go to www.forthepeople.com/OTC. You can also scan this QR code on your screen or click the link below. Now we are learning a little bit more about Felicia Gross, and we are learning that she was known to some extent to child services in Kentucky. Kentucky.com is reporting that in 2015, a woman with the same name and age as Felicia Gross was convicted of endangering the welfare of a child, and the conditions of her release, according to the outlet in that case, was to submit random drug cases and to work with Child Protective Services in Kentucky. The local court would not give us the court documents related to that case. We were hoping it would be able to shed some light on what happened there about a decade ago and whether Jayden was involved, but they said because of confidentiality law, they would not be able to provide us those documents. We also are learning from Kentucky.com that in 2013, there was a woman who has now passed away who petitioned Felicia for child support, but in that case, same situation. It's unclear if Jayden was involved in that case. As far as this case, the death of her son, Jayden Spicer. Authorities say that there's an autopsy currently pending. That'll be done in the capital of Kentucky, Frankfort, to determine Jayden's cause of death, or at least that is the hope that they will find out what his cause of death is. I want to share with you also the emotional words of the local prosecutor who will be taking on this case. This is what she said at this news conference where they announced that Jayden's body had been found.
Forgive me, guys, I've got notes. As Trooper Gayhart said, I am Miranda King. I'm the Commonwealth's Attorney Office prosecutor. I think I speak for an entire community when I say that we are devastated and collectively broken over this. I'd like to take a moment to extend my condolences to the people who loved and cared about Jayden. While this is not the outcome that we had hoped for, we certainly are grateful that we were able to bring him out of the woods today. Next, I think it's appropriate to thank the Kentucky State Police Post 13. These guys never give themselves enough credit. I can tell you that they have worked tirelessly and often around the clock in their efforts to bring Jayden home. And I know this because I have been on the phone with them just about every day, aggravating them for updates, and they've just not quit. I would just like to say, I'm sorry guys, this is hard. Finally, I'd just like to say that the outpouring of love and support as a result of this has been absolutely remarkable. And it appears that there are people all over the world that love and care for this baby. Because of that, I would like to assure the public that now, thanks to these guys, Jayden is now in good hands, and we're going to take care of him. Thank you.
Joining us now is private criminal defense investigator Billy Lane, who is also the head of We Are the Essentials for the Missing, which is a group that goes out and searches for people who are missing in cases like the one, unfortunately, that we're following out of Kentucky today. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. What stood out to you just initially from what we were told about Jayden Spicer, and 7 days ago he's reported missing? You know, when you first look at this story, what stood out to you?
Well, thank you for having us again. This story had some interesting issues, you know, but also not only does it stand out, but it also sort of fits into some of these other cases that you see a lot. But the fact that the mother was reaching out, the mother made a note to the media trying to explain what was going on, asking for support from the community. If you look at it, there's a lot of things in there that you see in a lot of cases. I think one of the biggest things is that the parents weren't out actively trying to search for the child. That's sometimes a big red flag in these type of cases. You'll see a lot of parents reaching out, being advocates. They're outspoken. They're actually out there on the ground, getting things done, doing searches, putting up posters, talking to the media. And from what I'm seeing, that wasn't happening here in this case. And that could be a red flag and concerning. But there are times when the family's just overwhelmed and they don't know what to do. This seemed like a missing persons case. It seemed like he might have wandered away from his home. I know there was concern that he just went back to mom after the grandmother had passed, based on some reports that I'd seen. And so that could be an issue too. Was he missing his grandmother? Was he mourning the grandmother? Was he trying to go visit her grave? There were several other issues I've seen online and throughout some reporting that was concerning. But yeah, the case in total, I would say, could be concerning, but it also could look like just any other case if you work enough of them. So it's perplexed at the least.
When you look at the timeline of the last 7 days, which was really how long it went on for, it was Wednesday morning of last week that he was first reported missing. During these types of searches, where you do have law enforcement, and it seemed like they used every resource they possibly could in Kentucky to try to find this young boy. But then, to your point, there was a lot of these questions. What stood out to me, too, in that letter that she wrote is she said, you know, whoever's reading this, if you have information, do the right thing. And that was before any of this would have been like an attempted kidnapping or something like that. It seemed like he had wandered off, and then suddenly it was, oh, go do the right thing. But in these investigations, at what point does the suspicion start to mount after you've been searching for a bit, using those resources, believing the family's story out of the gate? Typically, at what point did the question start to go back for the family of what's actually going on here?
Well, I would say the family is the one who has the most to gain or the most to lose in a scenario like this, the person that's the closest to them. As a former police detective, I would tell you the red flags go off at the first lie. So if you are able to catch them or anybody in a lie during the course of investigation, that's where the red flags go off at. When things aren't adding up, when he is not where he should be, that's a problem. And even in our investigations and our searches for individuals, if they're not where they should be based on the circumstances, based on the location, then that's when we become concerned, to the point of either doing more investigation, asking more questions, or looking in different areas where he should be.
And a lot of times, I mean, we see often interrogation video from a variety of cases, and it always appears that the suspect, they have a story going in and they think that they might be able to slide one past detectives, but then things unravel. Typically and sadly, we've seen cases like this before, but what do the suspects not realize detectives often know when going into those situations where the story just seems to fall apart?
So I will tell you, most detectives already know the answer to the question before they ask the question to the suspect. They know what the answer is, and they're waiting or giving the suspect an opportunity, or anybody the opportunity, to either say the right thing and tell the truth, or to try and cover it up. The cover up is the telltale sign in most of these cases. It's hard to remember your lies. And it's interesting in that note where she says, just tell the truth or do the right thing. I think that was the phrase. Yep. So I asked myself, maybe was that like a subliminal thing? She was actually telling herself to do the right thing in this scenario. It's tragic. This is an absolute tragic circumstances that should not have occurred under any circumstances. And even though, I think in a lot of these interviews, as a colleague of mine once say, it's the truth to sell the lie. So they tell you a little bit of a truth to get you to buy into buying the lie. So those are the things that you look for as an investigator.
She, according to the criminal complaint that we received, her story is, like, once she came clean in some ways to detectives, was that she had given the boy a sleeping pill or some sort of sleeping medication. He has a medical emergency, and that is why he passed away. And then she hides his body in this shallow grave. And that's what she's accused of. She's facing a manslaughter charge right now. What are some questions that you still have? Because she lied already, based on these allegations. She lied about, with this note, believing that the boy was missing, calling in a missing. I mean, how do you take that type of story, which did lead you to the body, but then at the same time, you cannot trust the source that the explanation's coming from?
So I would be interested in learning what tip was used to actually locate the body. I don't know if it was cell phone data. I don't know if it was a license plate reader on the camera system, or maybe she just gave a confession beforehand. I don't know if the confession came before the discovery of the body or after the discovery of the body, but these scenarios it's like an onion. There's different layers, and you have to get through the different layers to figure out what the actual truth is and what's going to lead you there. Do you trust somebody after the lie? No. I mean, you understand that you're dealing with a liar at that point if you've confirmed the lie. And at that point, you have to figure out, there again, what part of the truth are you giving me to sell me the lie? So that's the different portions of these investigations. And the other question is, as an investigator, I want to know, was there a reason for him to leave the home? Was there a nefarious scenario going on here? What would she gain from him no longer being there? And based on the story that I've read online and some of the information that's being put out there, people online claim that he was placed in a plastic tote and buried. But I think one of the quotes I've seen is that she thought he was already dead. That's concerning. She's thinking that he's dead. He might not have been dead. He might have been just incapacitated from the drugs that she gave him. And unfortunately, she might have buried this poor child alive. And that's concerning. I don't know how deep the grave is. I would pray that it was shallow enough that if that was the case, he might have been able to get out of it, but you just never know.
Right. And I know there's an autopsy that's pending right now, which, if she thinks this story, if she's not telling the truth, is going to be some sort of explanation for what happened. To your point, if the cause of death was not a medical emergency, but it was a suffocation from being in the bag, which is just terrifying to think about. It's a whole different ball game. On that note, because she is facing this manslaughter charge, and if she's sticking with this story, and maybe the autopsy shows that it was some sort of medical emergency related to sleep medication, what would detectives need to prove, or the type of evidence that they'd need to dig up to then make this a murder case?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would think they have to show that she did this, whether with intent or with negligence. She gave him too much medication. She overdosed him. There was some other trauma to the body that we may not be aware of. We're only hearing the story that she's telling us. She controls the narrative at this point until the medical examiner gives their narrative of what's going on here. I think there has to be some type of intent or negligence here. There's no excuse for her not calling 911 and saying, there's a problem here, please come and help me, come help my son. And that's exactly what should have happened here. They should have called she should have called the ambulance and had somebody come there right away. And this could have been a totally different scenario. We wouldn't have had 7 days of searching for this poor little boy and having people out there in the woods. I know what it's like. That's not an easy job. And then just to get blasted by the possibility that this person has killed their son and you think the little boy ran away. We have so many small children that run away and they're plagued with dementia, not dementia, but they're plagued with when the kids they're on the spectrum.
Oh yeah, autism.
So the autism will typically cause small children to run to water. And we see that a lot, especially here in Florida. If there's a small autistic child that goes missing, you want to get to the water right away because the possibility of them being in the water is going to be great based on training and experience of doing this for so long here. That's one of my concerns. But the fact is that I don't think that was a consideration in this case. There was no talk about autism or he was on the spectrum. But there again, sometimes in small families that really don't have the time or the money to go have their children tested, you don't really know if that's what you're dealing with or not.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, the note, I keep going back to that and what was written in that note, the calling in missing, you know, just even going with the story to detectives right out of the gate, and it triggers this massive, massive search. And then she's accused of also, and apparently she admitted to it, like coaching the other children in the house of what to say when they go talk to specialists. And it's like the amount of effort that went into the cover-up compared to if, gosh, he has a medical emergency, you mistakenly gave him a sleeping pill. If that's what happened, you call the authorities and hopefully they can save the boy's life. But it's like the amount of effort you put into the cover-up. When you have been on these cases, and I know some of them, you know, unfortunately don't have happy endings and charges, it becomes a criminal case. When you look at what she's accused of, I mean, how does that compare to the typical, I mean, just the lengths that it appears that she went to try to cover this up?
It, to me, seems like it could have been premeditated. She seemed like she had a lot of steps in place. She was putting things in order, the children, trying to get the children to explain what happened. Was it an accident? Was it premeditated? Was she upset? Was there some reason why the child was living with the grandmother to begin with? We don't even know that. That's not been made public yet. And then when the grandmother passed away, came to live back with mom. So there could be some trauma going on there between the mother and the child. We don't know what that scenario is like. But we pray that this was an accident. We pray that there's going to be justice for him. But you just never know. Like it says, I think until we get the full autopsy from the coroner's office to see if there's any other trauma, to see what type of toxicology may be on board here, was it just sleeping pills? But because keep in mind, she controls the narrative right now. She's the only person that has told us what her version of what really went on.
And then just lastly, Billy, because I know you've been a part of many of these searches, and I'm sure the feeling of when they have the happy ending, what that's like to be part of it, to bring a child home. What type of toll does a story like this take on the people who are out there in Kentucky this week searching for this young boy, hoping that he would be found safely?
I can tell you from being out there, it sucks the energy out of you. Everything that's in you, you're hoping that you're able to be that person or be part of that group that goes out there and finds him alive and brings him home. You know, maybe he wandered away from home, maybe he left, maybe he chased the dog, there's no telling. But as a searcher, and when you're out there, when you find the news that he's no longer with you, especially a 10-year-old, everybody who has a child at that point relates to their own child, seeing that this could have been them. And it just takes the energy out of you. It takes everything that you have out of you. Emotionally and physically, you're drained for days, even after any of these searches that you're on. You know, whether you find them or not, I mean, you're just emotionally just burnt out. You have to take a day or two just to reset and try to get back into your mind again and get back on the right track to be able to go out there and be effective again.
Yeah, I just think of even the prosecutor in this case and her news conference. I mean, very brief statement, but she was even overcome with emotion. And I mean, when you work that job, you know, dealing with tough stories, it's what you do for a living. And you can just see the impact it's having on people in Kentucky. Billy Lane, great to have you on Law and Crime. We hope to have you on again. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
This story has hit so many people in the chest in the rural part of Kentucky where Jayden Spicer grew up and where he was going to continue to grow up, if allegedly not for what his mom says that she did. There is a candlelight vigil scheduled for this weekend as that community continues to mourn and remember the life of Jayden Spicer. That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.